So that's a traditional name that we know that name has been used for more than 2,000 years. So there's some connection there, but we also don't fully understand that. Now, what's really interesting to me is not only that we don't fully understand the lingam, but this lingam also exists everywhere, right? This symbol of just a cylinder, right? It just exists everywhere. It exists in Stonehenge, right? Well, what's that called? What do you guys call that lingam in Stonehenge?
Yeah, you get some of the bluestones, some of the spotted dolerite look like phallic lingam. That's what they look like. I mean, it's very, very profound. I mean, in fact, all the bluestones have that look about them originally when they were probably there.
Yeah.
And so people say that just megaliths.
Yeah. But there's one big one. There's one big, what's that stone? I forgot the name of it. There's one big lingam where the shadow falls.
Oh, yes, okay. No, there's a couple there actually. There's one of the bluestones, which has got like a kind of ridge down one side of it, standing upright. Yep. You've got another massive fallen stone with all the scoop marks on it,
yes,
which looks like it's been softened and scooped. And it's got like a separate, almost like top part. This is what gives it this look, yes, of this sort of male phallus, it's kind of, so I mean, Terence Meaden has even suggested that Stonehenge is a series of lingams, and the shadows at certain times, the solstices, etc., would then penetrate the male shard into the female yoni, the kind of trilithon, the entrance between the trilithon. So there's all this play of fertility between the male and the female.
Yeah.
So I see that at Carahan Tepe as well, but it seems to be that could be a similar thing, reflected in the traditions of the lingam in India.
Do you, now that's really interesting to me, because the lingam is also found in Ireland or Scotland. There's one phallic symbol in Scotland or Ireland. I wanted to go there, but I had to get a separate visa.
It's the Hill of Tara.
Yeah.
I think it's the Stone of Destiny. And I think that's a lingam. That's like a lingam on top of the kind of main sacred, almost like almost like a palace area of the kings and queens of Tara, going way back to Bronze Age and Neolithic times. And then you start getting into all the traditions linked with that. It's pretty epic, just like it is in India. Yeah.
So what is your opinion here? Like, you think once upon a time, this is my idea, that once upon a time, people worship the same gods.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, I think, but the symbolism is something JJ focuses on. The symbolism is being found in so many different places. And I think just to find something like the Pillar Shrine or Structure AB at Carahan Tepe, and it seems to have the same symbolism, not exactly the same design, the same symbolism. And I find that fascinating because, to find that in these different areas, especially with the connection that B.G. Siddharth made between the head from the Vali Churi, an 8,300 BC site in Turkey, with the serpent going down the back like a Vedic priest ponytail. And he believed the Rig Veda, the astronomy in that, was based upon stuff from Turkey. It was based upon the same era as Göbekli Tepe sky watchers and things like that. So yeah, I think there's something going on. I think there's a kind of natural religious kind of drive people have, and it's always related to fertility, whether it be male symbolism or the female symbolism. We have lots of these goddess cults and cultures all around the world. There's little goddess statues we find in Malta, and the Paleolithic ones as well. Yeah. So I think there's a drive in less advanced societies, especially for this kind of thing, because you're relying on fertility in the land, in your animals, in your crops, for survival, as well as yourselves. So yeah, I think there's something to be said. So I think this lingam is like a long process of kind of development that ended up in certain places, into certain forms. And yeah, it fascinates me. Yeah, there's something about it, which, because seeing these lingams myself, when I went to India and I was with you to see some of them, they blew my mind, because this is a living tradition. There was paint placed all over them, and flowers and oils, and fires were still going, charcoals, and you just realise this is amazing, because, like we said earlier, these traditions are alive there. So I think the fact that it's still revered is really interesting.
Yes. it appears to be, to some it appears to be exotic. Obviously, people think, if you're an atheist, just like, it's a lot of superstition, appears to be exotic. Sometimes people get frustrated because sometimes it gets really busy in temples. You'll have like thousands of people just swarming the place, right? But what we also understand, and it takes time to embrace it, what we do understand is that people start to become very peaceful and happy when they visit these ancient temples. And that's a fact, right? So you can go there, and this is what's happening now because we're having like a renaissance in India, right? You could be filled with, your work pressure. You could be depressed. You could be unhappy with your life. You could have personal problems. But if you go to an ancient temple, or if you go to a series of ancient temples, you're doing pilgrimage, basically. And the people who are starting to do pilgrimage come back as different persons. It completely changes their lives. For some reason, it has a therapeutic effect on humans.
I agree, yeah, and same can be said, I believe, for the stone circles of Britain. I mean, there's a huge amount of research on the acoustics, the geometry, the placement. It's all like to enhance consciousness, enhance the soul. It's like the John Michel idea of the enchantment of the landscape, the enchantment of the human and the landscape combined. I think it's absolutely fascinating. I think another aspect of that, which I want to talk about, is the precision geometry and the stonework, the absolute. You do a lot about ancient technology in India. Yeah. I think that's part of it. I think it's part of all the same thing. When it comes down to precision, polished kind of stones and designs with specific shapes and everything like this. But what do you make of how they could have created such precision? I mean, I've seen like Kailasa Temple. I went to Barabar Caves, and that blew me away. I mean, the walls are so smooth, they're like mirrors. It was really, really strange, really powerful acoustics. But this is all over India, this kind of technology. And back then, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, there wasn't supposed to be anything that could create that kind of precision. Yes. So what are your thoughts on that in a general sense? And if there's a couple of sites we can discuss, that'd be fascinating.
I've obviously documented a lot of sites. We've documented at least a few hundred temples, I would say. Definitely more than 100 temples. We do see extraordinary precision, right? And we're not only talking about astronomical precision. For example, there is a place called the Modara Sun Temple in Gujarat. The alignment is just perfect. Okay, so the sun, so this is a fun part. Some of your viewers may really like this. On a particular day, I don't remember if it's the solstice or the equinox, but on one of those days, if you go to that temple, your shadow will not fall on the ground. Yes. Now, it sounds like absolute superstition or even pseudoscience, but you can literally go there on either the solstice or the equinox. I think it's the solstice, or it could be the equinox. But if you go to Modara Sun Temple, and if you stand there on that day around noontime, your shadow will not fall on the ground. And of course, it's mind-boggling, right? Because it's dedicated to the sun, and to ancient people, they're gonna go there on that day because it's a solar event, right? People worship those days, and then when they go to the temple, their shadow will not fall. What ancient builders did was they built it on the Tropic of Cancer. So they built it exactly. They look at. In fact, it's so precisely done. There's a tiny little notch carved, and that's where the Surya is placed. That's where the Surya, the sun god, is placed exactly on the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, so they knew what they were doing. So we're talking about astronomical work there, but You were asking me more about the stonework, right?
Yes, as well as there's so many anomalies, but
yes,
but the precision stonework. I mean, we've seen like the work of people like Christopher Dunn, Ben Van Kerkwyk, looking at the Egyptian high technology. We've seen it in Peru potentially, elements of it coming out of Göbekli Tepe now, but clearly one of the most amazing places for this is India.
Yes,
by far.
So we can see some amazing stonework in ancient temples, okay? So we can tell that the ancient builders were putting details, were deliberately doing this to kind of create a lasting impression on mankind. They knew that people would come after 1,000 years, 2,000 years, they would marvel at them. Right, so they made a chain. There is literally in multiple temples. This is happening in Hampi. This is in many temples in Tamil Nadu. You will see a chain hanging from the ceiling, but this chain is made of stone. So they made these stone chains. People still don't believe that. An average visitor who walks in refuses to believe that all these links, it looks very empty and it even kind of moves, when there's a strong breeze, it moves. And then they refuse to believe that it's not made of metal. It's carved out of stone, okay? So we can see that, things like these stone chains in ancient temples, and they knew that they would last for a long time. Imagine making a chain out of solid granite. Okay, this is really mind-boggling.
It's like one piece of granite you're sort of talking about.
Yes.
So it's not like they're putting it together in different pieces. It's like one piece.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Now think about it, right? So because you work with megaliths, right? You think about stones all the time, right? So you work with megaliths, right? So you think about stone all the time. So there's a ceiling like this, and there's a stone chain hanging from that, right? Correct? And then the chain has links. That's what we're talking about. So you're saying that the chain is not made of different stones. It's made of one stone, and they kind of carved all the insides out, right, to make it look like the chain. That's what you're saying, and it's hanging from big block there. But how is it connected to the big block on top? How is it?
Yeah, that's pretty confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because now we're not only talking about the chain, we're not only talking about this block here, we're talking about this block, because you can't take two stone blocks and then put them together. We can do that with metal because we can open it up and then put it back in, right? So we're not only talking about the vertical stone chain, we're also talking about the horizontal piece. And sometimes the horizontal piece is like 20 feet long and 10 feet wide. It's like the one big block of ceiling. So how did ancient builders do that?
So we have these bizarre kind of stone chains. I've seen many beautiful carvings throughout India. You've talked a lot. We'll put some links into some of the videos about the high technology, because there's so many examples. I went to Kailasa Temple, and that really blew my mind. That's further up north. It's an amazing site. Kailasa Temple is one of these multiple kind of cave sites. It's Ellora, isn't it? Ellora Caves, yeah. And that really blew my mind, because I saw your video on it, of course, and it's carved out of one giant chunk of granite or basalt. It's incredible. And so this, I don't think people realize. I didn't realize how big it was when I went there. I spent virtually the whole day there, because it just blew my mind. These 27 other temples I didn't get a chance to look at really, but that one. And it's much bigger than you think. There's obelisks there, there's elephants, there's carvings. Where did all the stone go? You estimated there was 400,000 tons of stone vanished from that. And where did it go? How did it disappear? Because I know, I don't want to give too much away, but you mentioned in this video they had some kind of ancient technology that's recorded in the old texts. So tell us about this amazing site.
Yeah, one of the very first things that I researched is the Kailasa temple. I think this was in 2014 on YouTube. This is 10 years ago. And I realized that it became viral at that time. That was the very first video that became viral at that time. Because I did kind of a thorough research. I made a bunch of videos about the Kailasa temple. At that time, Kailasa temple was already famous, but it hadn't gotten the worldwide fame that it now has. But it deserves more fame, in my opinion. We already have like Hillary Clinton coming and looking at the Kailasa temple. Yeah, we got the Kailasa temple everywhere now, right? People doing pilgrimage to Kailasa temple. This is amazing, right? Not only like staunch Hindus doing pilgrimage to Kailasa temple, we also have people like ancient aliens people, the Megalithomania people. All these people are coming to Kailasa temple to study the Kailasa temple, right? Because it truly deserves that attention. And I'm saying it deserves more attention, right? In 10 years, it should get more people because it's a world wonder, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, it should be classed as one of the kind of wonders of the world.
Yes.
After seeing that up close, I was just, wow, this is something special.
Yes. Because the way that the temple is carved is unique, okay? Because in Ellora Caves, we have about 32 different caves. Some are Buddhist caves, some are Hindu caves, some are Jain caves. And usually, if you're going to start building a cave temple, you and I, we start a project, we say, okay, let's get this giant rock and now start to make a temple out of it. You would start from the ground level. You go like this. This is called cut-in technology, okay? So that's how most of the cave temples are built. But Kailasa temple started from the top of the mountain. That's what makes it so unique. It started from the top because there's no way you can start like this. So they started from the top and they did a cut-out technology. And it's very hard to believe that they can do that. So why? Because the Kailasa temple is not a simple cave temple. It has a lot of different things inside it. It has multiple chambers. It has multiple levels. It has floors. It has carvings. It has a lingam. When people go to Kailasa temple, when they go to a main chamber, they're worshipping a lingam. But that lingam is not put there. Yeah. the rocks around the lingam were carved out. Right? So the lingam was already there. So all these spaces that people walk around looking at the carvings, that was filled with rocks once upon a time. That was solid mountain that you're walking on now. It's actually unbelievable how they did that, right? And then understand this, till today, right? And they're saying, the Kailasa temple, they theorize it's 1200 years old. Probably much, much older. Probably much, much older, right? But let's say it's only 1,000 years old. Let's say it's only 1,300 years old. Whatever. Till date, nothing has been added to the temple. And you can see it's a finished temple. People try to destroy it like the pyramids. It's still there, right? Because how do you destroy a mountain? You have to nuke it. Okay. Now there are bridges. Okay, there's like one chamber, like there is like a second level chamber here, right? Like second floor here. There's like a balcony here, and between those two floors, there's a bridge, right? There's like a walkway, and you can walk through that. And you had to completely understand everything. And you have to plan everything, put it on paper, completely mastermind that before you start carving anything. Before you start scooping out just a little bit of rock, you have to plan everything out. And when you go to Kailasa temple, you realize how complex it is, man. I'll give you some styrofoam, right? I'll give you just a little block of styrofoam and I dare you to carve something that looks even close to a Kailasa temple. So we're looking at like some insane design, planning, execution, with no mistake. Let's say they screwed up just one part, right? Let's say they damaged the bridge, right? Or let's say they built the structure, they scooped it out, and then they said, oh, we need a bridge between them. Yeah. They can't do it. You know what I'm saying? So we're looking at like a masterpiece, and this is why, it should be declared as a world wonder. Just because it's in India, it doesn't get that much attention. That's a fact. Okay, if it were in the UK, for example, or if it were in the US, in the US, no offense, we look at mounds, it's just a pile of dirt sometimes, right? And they're well protected. You get signboards on it. People respect that. People come from various states just to look at the mounds, right? But simply because the Kailasa temple is in India, it doesn't get that much attention, but it deserves the whole world should come and look at the Kailasa temple at least once.
I agree. But what happened to the 400,000 tons of stone that got removed? That's one of the big mysteries.
Yes. We don't know exactly what happened, and I say that you could literally build a pyramid with that excavated rocks, right? All the rocks that got scooped out, you can build a pyramid. You can build the Giza pyramid with with the excavated rocks, and it's gone. It's not there, right? So we don't know, and of course, we may never find out. We may find out it's there somewhere, but if you look at ancient texts, it talks about a lot of different tools and weapons and technology that we don't understand. For example, there's one called Bhaumastra. They talk about Bhaumastra, not Brahmastra. Brahmastra is like a nuclear weapon, but they talk about Bhaumastra, in which you can put a tool into the earth and it literally evaporates the rock. It just converts the rock. It just vaporizes the rock.
This is like recorded in some kind of ancient text in India?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, it literally talks about how the weapon or the tool, it literally talks about how the tool will go into the ground and find a rock and just vaporizes it. And the Bhaumastra, how they were using the Bhaumastra, they used to kind of use like a metal detector, right? And they would try to find gold, and they would evaporate the rock, and they would go to the gold. Yeah, it talks about technology like that. So we don't know if this type of technology existed at that time.
That's fascinating. That reminds me of some of the Irish stories that we get from ancient Ireland, where they talk about having these high-level weapons and tools that could do such things. Like they could create massive destruction, but also be really useful for constructing sites. So I find that fascinating that we have these kind of such ancient stories, almost like of a whole different world that's been completely forgotten.